Yeah, thank you very much, Madam Chairwoman. Mr. Secretary, let me bring it a little bit closer to home to this hemisphere. Cuba. As you know, the U.S. law states that if certain conditions are met by the Castro regime, that the embargo in essence goes away. The President has been stating, he said it in the State of the Union, that he wants the embargo just to go away. And he wants Congress to lift the embargo without fulfilling those conditions that are in the law. So which of those conditions does this administration oppose? Or which of those conditions does this administration believe that the Cuban people do not deserve? Because let me tell you what they are. They are the release of all political prisoners. They are the legalization of political parties, independent press and independent labor unions, and free elections. Those are the conditions in law. The administration has said that we don't need to meet those conditions, that Congress should get rid of the sanctions without those conditions. Which one of those conditions does this administration think are too much to ask or unfair or the Cuban people do not deserve?
None. They deserve them. There's none that's unfair. We should ask for all of them. What this administration believes, however, is that the embargo has not produced them and will not produce them. In fact, it's the exact opposite. We believe that if you lift the embargo and engage more thoroughly with Cuba, you have a much higher rate of probability and a much faster set of transformations that can take place. I believe that very strongly, personally. I believed it when I was here in the Senate. I think we've actually helped repression by shutting it down. It's much easier for regimes that are not held accountable, that don't interact with the world, that sort of are shut off, to be repressive than places that have been opened up where there's engagement and countries are involved.
Let's talk about that, if I may, Mr. Secretary. As you know, I apologize for interrupting, but we don't have a lot of time.
Go ahead.
So as of the time of the President's December 17th announcement, there have been hundreds of political arrests, including more than just this weekend, 200 last weekend, which including the arrest of over 80 ladies in white, more than 90 from the Cuban Patriotic Union, including very well-known activists. By the way, at least 5 of the President's so-called 53 political prisoners that the President said was one of the things that he got out of this deal for the United States and for Cuba have been rearrested since then. And yet, it seems that the administration is continuing to negotiate, even though the regime has not only continued their repression, has been escalating their repression, but even those that the President said were kind of the success story that the Castro regime released, a number of them have been rearrested. So again, it would seem that the administration is looking forward to normalization at all costs, regardless of what the regime is doing. And is there anything that would cause that the Castro regime could do to stop this administration from normalizing, which, as you know, normalizing the United States for a terrorist regime, that's a pretty good gift. So what could they do? What should they do? What can they do that would stop the President and this administration from normalizing?
Well, first of all, we don't know that they are currently engaging in international terrorism. That evaluation is being made.
Well, Secretary, there was a shipment of arms that went to North Korea that even the UN stated. I'm sure you're aware of that, Mr. Secretary.
I am aware of that, but the standard by which you all wrote the law with respect to what has to be measured for international terrorism is whether or not they've engaged in acts of international terrorism in the last 6 months.
You are aware of the arms by the Colombian military confiscated arms recently that were in the hands of the FARC?
Well, this is all being evaluated right now.
But you are aware of that?
I don't.
And that would qualify as an act of terrorism.
I don't know yet. I'm not going to pre-qualify what is being appropriately judged with the input of all of our intel community. All the relevant agencies are asked to contribute to this. You will be obviously advised and briefed with respect to what the conclusions are on it. And I don't know what they are yet because they're engaged in that endeavor. That's a prerequisite, obviously, for the ability to move forward. But that said, let me just say to you that we're well aware of the ladies in white and the challenges internally. Actually, I interpret that as sort of reaction to it's a manifestation of the fear, but it might come But I think there's a much greater opportunity to be able to hold them accountable and deal with that when you have the scrutiny that will come with additional transactions, commerce, presence, money in hands of people there, people traveling, open up standards that come with this. And there's a much greater ability. I mean, that's how we've operated in many other countries. You know, we had, I mean, Richard Nixon opened up and normalized our relations with China. We still have huge disagreements with China. We've normalized, opened up our relations with the Soviet Union. We had huge years during the Cold War where we were fighting them in a Cold War. But we were able to do more as a consequence of that engagement. And ultimately, both changed. One disappeared, the Soviet Union, and the other has been increasingly partnering, opening up, engaging in different ways, even as we continue to have some problems. So these things don't change overnight, and I don't expect that will, nor do you. The question is, are you better positioned to be able to fight for the things that matter to you? Can you leverage people's rights? Can you send an ambassador in to raise the profile on a particular human rights challenge? Can you do more to be able to do that? We have not backed off of one of those priorities. And in fact, when Roberta Jacobson, Assistant Secretary Jacobson, was there, she met with civil society. They didn't like it, but she met with them. And so we will continue to press our case, but we also think we are far more advantaged in doing so if we are having diplomatic relations and engaging and opening up so that a lot of folks from Florida, from New Jersey, from other places who have family there would be free to visit, bring ideas, bring their openness, bring their, you know, their money and other things, which will change life in Cuba. I have no doubt about it.
And, Mr. Secretary, my time has clearly expired. I would not use China as a model to talk about when we're talking about human rights. That's precisely what we do not. Well, you talk about the success of China. I would tell you that's not a success.
Please don't put words in my mouth.
You mentioned China. I did not, sir.
I did. I mentioned China as a country with whom we have normalized diplomatic relations and huge differences, is what I said. Huge differences, both on a political system, on human rights, on business practices, cyber. Run the list.
Yeah, and has that helped the human rights condition of the Chinese people?
Relations.
Has that helped the human rights condition of the Chinese people? That's a discussion for another time because my time is up. I would argue, Mr. Secretary, that it has not. Thank you. I yield back.